Mikey Eggert, welcome to the Mapper Forward podcast.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure. For anyone who's been waiting for the last half an hour, I'm sorry, it was technical difficulties on our part that's delayed this going live, but we are finally here. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a human who is, I don't know if you know this, Mikey, you're my favorite chef in the world.
You just don't know that many.
Bullshit, mates.
It's not a claim to fame. It's like a rank out of 3.
You have made me my number 1 and my number 2 meals that I've ever had at a restaurant.
Ah, that's pretty nice.
So the first one was at Pinbone.
Mm-hmm. The original,
the OG. And then the second one, this was fantastic. I took my business partner, Siobhan, to Good Luck Pinbone. And she had been dying to go. And so we get there and I'm like, look, I'm just letting you know this is going to be vegan. And she's a meat eater. So dish after dish after dish comes out and you looked after us so well. It was seriously one of the best meals of the second best meal of my life. And she says, don't you fucking ever tell anyone that my best meal ever was a vegan meal.
It's not that hard to do nice vegan food.
It's really not. Yeah. So you and Jem are my favorite. Shout out to Jem. You're my favorite chef team ever. It's just, I love what you're doing. I love the way you're approaching it. It's all about produce. It's all about simple. It's all about, like, every time you fucking open another version of Pinbone, it's completely different.
Yeah, I mean, that was always the goal. I think, like, just to briefly talk about Pinbone as a starting thing, we really just wanted to have some fun together with my sister Berry, who's our floor manager, or was.
Shout out to Berry.
Yeah.
Cheers to you, to Jem, and to Berry. Having some elixir, mate, just on your behalf.
Cheers. I've only got water. Mine's got no coffee in it. The wrong podcast for me. We just wanted to have fun. We didn't want to make money. And we wanted to do what we wanted to do, which is why they always evolved into different things. And I think we did that for about 8 years as a group. And then we all decided that was enough and we, went our separate ways. And, Bez had a baby and Jem did Lankan filling station and I'm doing Totti's. And but it was good. Those 8 years were really self-fulfilling. They weren't financial, like, Goliaths by any means, but they gave us a real spiritual and a real, like, soul nourishing and creative venting kind of atmosphere to do things. So it was really good and
super expressive, right? Like the different iterations.
It was. And it's like, it's so rare and you sometimes don't notice it until you've done it. Just how lucky you are to work with, like, your sister and your best friend and all that, and not have bosses. And you sacrifice a lot to do it. Like, we sacrificed financially, that was our sacrifice. But the gains was so much more, like doing what we wanted and having Berry do what she wanted and painting on the wall or, carpet on the floor or just anything, and knowing too that it was a short period of time so you could just throw everything at it, and not worrying about, shit, we've got a 5-year lease or, we've invested $250,000 or more, knowing that
easily more than that, mate.
We were
hearing about $1 million fit outs.
Yeah, exactly. That's fucking ludicrous. I'm doing ludicrous fit outs now, and they're great fun too for different.
But that's on Merivale's money.
Yeah, it is, and it's a different world. That's fun. Yeah, Jesse's great. He's a different. He's a great guy. But the most we ever spent was like $30,000 on a restaurant fit out, and then we'd run them for a year and then leave. So it's cool to not have that hanging over you.
And for anyone who isn't familiar with Pinbone, the idea was it was almost like a long-term pop-up.
Yeah, constant pop-ups.
Constant pop-ups in areas that they knew that there wasn't going to be something that they could fall into the trap of, oh, well, this is doing really well, so let's keep it here for the next 10 years. They knew they were going to have to be forced out. There was a demolition clause at Good Luck Pinbone, right?
Yep. Yeah, that building was literally falling down around us.
Literally, like you would walk in and the wall was still exposed from, and the cracks in the bricks and all of that was still exposed. It was classroom chairs,
Yeah, the tables were $2 and the chairs were 50 cents each. You know, like it was all secondhand junk.
Yep.
That worked.
But the food, fuck me, the food was incredible.
And it was a real workup. So we tried to be very thorough and preempt, plan. So we do 3.5 days. Like we do 3 nights and 1 lunch because the effort was so much to get that done. Like we had 2 woks and a small hibachi grill about that big, and we used to do 180 covers a night. So there was
that's
that
crazy.
You know what I mean? And so it drew all your energy out. So then we had to have 2.5 days off to just sort of recover, come back and do it again. But
did you have a full prep day as well?
Yeah, two full prep days.
2 full prep days.
Yeah.
That's
a running around providoring day where we'd go to the markets and load up and launch the cool room, or we would go and collect wild apples and wild fruit to make the desserts and stuff because we were doing everything on the cheap.
And it's not like, if I remember walking into the kitchen to say thanks to you and Jem and thinking, I've no idea how many people they have back here. And you walk in there and there's just Mikey and Jem. That's
yeah, and we had an apprentice
that's
as
the
well,
kitchen.
Brando. That was it. But it was great, you know what I mean? And we had portable stainless tables that wobbled so you couldn't chop on them. And by the end of Pinbone, it was bent in the middle, everything would roll into the middle of the bed. And, we had all these guys, Henry Mark, this great cafe, Aaron and Sophie out in Penrith. They gave us a sink, they gave us a shelf, they gave us a dishwasher. The guys from Three Blue Ducks gave us a dishwasher, Dazza and Mark. There was a really, really cool community of people that were fuck yeah, we want to see you guys do a weird Asian restaurant in Kensington. Get some shit, get it done.
These 3 white people going to do weird Asian and it's going to taste fucking amazing.
Look, Jem had worked for Billy Kwong for 5 years. I did 2 years there. We'd worked in Japanese restaurants and Thai restaurants. So we had a pretty strong Asian background, but we definitely took a lot of influence from what was happening in LA and, New York, and just this kind of nouveau, casual, fun, go and get fucked up kind of place. We gave people $5 BYO, unlimited, whatever you wanted. And people were bringing kegs of beer and eskies full of wine. And I still remember one dude sat there and drank a 1.5 litre bottle of gin with his meal. No mixer, nothing. He was just sucking on a lime and just drinking gin. And, people would book us out for their parties. I do remember that year became Good Luck Pinbone was the hospitality Christmas party. So January every Sunday, and people just took the piss. They come in, it was $45 for food, and then just piss, drink whatever you wanted, and it was just debaucherous. We would be drunk by the end of it with our friends. Three Blue Ducks, Fire Door, all these different Christmas parties just came in and got fucked up. It was unreal. It was really good.
For anyone listening that's not Australian, taking the piss is a term that means making fun of.
Yeah.
I have to
they just
translate every now and then.
Stretched the boundaries of BYO. If they could carry it, they brought it in. We ended up one night. We had a gourmet traveller, had a Christmas farewell kind of combined party, and so they booked out Good Luck Pinbone, and our waitress's sister, who's our really good friend, so Celia and Georgia, they wanted to have Georgia's 40th, and so we were like, shit, it's the same night. So we did a deal with the real estate. Because next door was the dilapidated and abandoned old dry cleaners, and we took a gurney and we just basically gurneyed this fucking disgusting side, right? Emptied it out and then said, well, if you want it, to Georgia, you can have it. So she decided to make it an 80s punk party to go with the warehouse thing, and so we just put trestle tables down one side. And we only had the one kitchen, and we were cooking for 200 people at once. It was fucking nightmare. Gourmet Traveller was so drunk, we could have just sent their food because they didn't give a fuck. Snacking coke and drugs and drinking.
Of course it was.
It was so good.
Oh, I miss Australia sometimes so much.
The waiters had to run outside with the food for the next door party. It was pissing down with rain, so we had I was just fucking sick, you know what I mean?
Oh my God, I'm crying.
Yeah. Those were the things you get away with, it cost us $250 to rent the place for a night, but it cost Mary 2 weeks of her life cleaning cupboards, sending food, standards. So, yeah, it was good. Good times.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude, how am I meant to do the rest of this conversation?
Don't worry. I just keep telling people stories. You know? There's so many dodgy things that we did, you know. Like,
Oh God, geez, the hospitality industry is just that kind of thing, though, isn't it? But you guys cornered a part of it that just was totally unique and different in the way that you did it.
yeah, I think the food that myself and Jem were doing was cool. Like, it was interesting. But I do think a lot of the success that we had and a lot of the relationships and the friendships and the support that we gained did come directly from Barry's interaction with the clientele and the customers, because she built a floor team of just really genuine, nice people. And they weren't necessarily like trained professionals. In fact, I don't think we ever had anyone that was, but they'd buy into her kind of, you know, system of becoming friends with customers and actually giving a shit. And she could rely on the kitchen to give a shit, you know, and so nothing was out of the question. We always made the effort, and the relationship of Pinbone and the general public and the hospitality industry just sort of snowballed from there. And we got far more credit than we probably deserved based on people's appreciation of the friendships and the, you know, our efforts. And, you know, we were kind of like a little underdog that people just kind of wanted to cheer on, you know, but it was really driven by Barry's front of house team, you know.
I think you're being very humble there. I think that from a customer's perspective, it was this idea of every point of the interaction with the brand, you always felt excited. You felt excited when you engaged on social media. You felt excited when the press was writing about it. You felt excited when you walked in, because you felt like this gush of love. And I know that you were like, I know you guys. And so I felt this love, this gush of love anyway. But Siobhan hadn't met you guys. She was like, oh God, these people are so welcoming. And we walked in there, and actually I remember the very first time when I went to the OG Pinbone, I didn't know you guys. I showed up with some elixir, and I knew that you had it, and I knew that you liked it. And so I showed up with some elixir, and this was the last week that you guys were open.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know who Barry was at that time. I said, excuse me, this is for the chef. I know that he drinks Elixir Edition. And so this is for all of you guys to enjoy. I can't believe I'm so excited to be here, blah, blah, blah. And then the food just started fucking rolling out. I think we had 11 courses. I'm like, I got to, I think, course 8 or 9. And I said by that point, I knew her name was Barry. And she was loving up on us so much. And the same as everyone else. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And these incredible courses kept coming out. And my friend Hans was with me. He's like, how is he doing this? How are they doing this? This is amazing. The food would come. Nothing was in any way resembling any course that came before it. And it just was magic. And then I said to Barry, I'm like, listen, we can't eat anymore. She said, well, too bad, because he's got another few dishes coming out.
Yeah, well, that's it. Once you make the effort to make vegan food, you got to eat it, man, because I already went to the trouble.
Hey, dude.
Take it away.
Anytime you want to cook for me, I am there. Absolutely. It was just, I can't wait if I show up at Totti's, will you make me a vegan pasta?
Yeah, of course. There's actually quite a lot of vegan food already on the menu because it's Bondi, so we had to. I'm still looking for any recipe that's remotely Italian that includes avocado, just so I can double my wages, you know. Yeah.
Oh dear. How's Totti's going?
It's a beast. Yeah, it's so popular. It's crazy. This one really hit a chord. Justin built a beautiful space. It's like amazing kind of Mediterranean terrain.
He has done such great things for the foodie scene in Sydney. Fuck, I'd love to get him on this podcast because he is just such an inspiration.
He's really smart, man. And working with a true business person, just we're not business people, has been really refreshing. And he's got a great team as well. It's a wonderful structure. And everybody really gives a shit and they know what it means to do hospitality. And, you know, yes, they have money and all that, but they get the little things, right.
But you feel that at Maryvale.
Yeah, I think so.
You feel that I personally, every Maryvale establishment I've been into, I feel like everybody there gives a shit. Not to the point that Berry does it. You know,
Yeah.
Berry, it's different. Berry
Yeah.
is 1 in a million hospitality professionals that you walk in and you feel like, oh my God, this is my big sister who's welcoming me into her house.
Yeah.
Every
That was
single
a-
person feels that with Berry. And the other thing is she was really great at preempting what her staff weren't going to see.
Mm.
It
Yeah,
was
she had
really
eyes.
fun to watch
She
her
had
do that.
eyes everywhere. It was good. There was like a real sense of like we had a real trust in her to do that element, and she had a real trust in us to execute the food. So I think that kind of level of respect just kept driving the trio.
Yeah.
You know, that we had to make sure that we were delivering. She had to make sure that she was delivering, and it kept pushing all of us, and it was great. Like that was why it was so tight. You know, and we set out to have this really understated high level of both food and service, but really casual, and we kind of got it most of the time.
You
Like
got it all the time, dude. Like everyone got excited every time you were opening another pop-up.
And that was good too, because you generate your own press. And one of the things you have to do in Sydney is generate press. It's the most fickle city. Like I can't really say what other cities are like, but Sydney's a fucking shit fight. You know, like 12 months in, the media kind of forgets about you. You need to either like exploit Instagram and really like phony up what you're doing and make it so that the nupties in the lower levels of media that don't really know anything just, you know, pick up on what you're doing and they just grab it and run with it. So you get this constant press, or you need to constantly be opening or doing like
keeping it fresh, keeping it
collaborations
new.
or something. But you know, it's a bit sad because the people that do a great product consistently in a year in, year out don't get the press that they deserve.
No, and the cool kids are the ones that keep getting the attention.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had an intention to tap into that, you know, of course.
Why
you know,
wouldn't you?
If you open every 12 months, keep your overheads low, you know, you get 12 months of press, you jump out and you do it again, you know. Looking back, we were talking about this the other day, would we have kept any of them open? Probably not, because we always opened them with some sort of hindrance or some sort of it's too much speculation. Like Good Luck Pinbone was great, but the building was dilapidated. But if you didn't do it in a dilapidated building, we're not sure that it would have as much fun.
Yeah, exactly. That was it was the charm of it. Like the other thing, I was thinking about this a lot today. Like, what is it about your brand that always excited diners? And it's never just the food that excites diners. You know, there's got to be something that keeps bringing people back, because your food's never the same. It's not like, you know, and go ahead.
Well, I think we were always forced to have a real sense of, you know, we had to be really genuine across all like elements. And I think that really resonates with people because, you know, we didn't have money, we didn't have any bells and whistles, we didn't have anything to just lure you in, you know. So we relied on the very minimum elements of hospitality. You know what I mean? You weren't getting silver service, you weren't getting, you know, beautiful, you know, plum stemware or, you know, beautiful plates. You know, we did do a lot of collaborations with other artists on plates and cups and artworks, which was really cool. But it was just the very basic level of hospitality. And
but the food was world class.
Well, yeah, the food was good.
And,
you know,
there's you being humble again. You can't say, but not only was the food world class, there were two things that I think that were at the heart of what was so successful about you guys as a trio and everything that you opened. First of all, it was genuine. There was no bullshit behind it. You weren't faking whether you could do it or not. Like, and that kept people coming back, because we knew that no matter what it was you were going to open, it was going to be fucking good. You were genuine about that. But the other thing was, it was a limited experience. You know what I'm saying?
If you dangle that carrot in front of people in Sydney, they will fucking run.
Absolutely. In Sydney, I mean, you nailed it. And I don't know, it's just a Sydney thing. I think this is, our attention spans are so short now that I think people want to be able to say that I've got to go to Good Luck Pinbone because it's only going to be there for a certain amount of time. And I want my Instagram to show, even though for fuck's sake, the next place you open, please have decent lighting so I can take fucking decent photos on Instagram. I kept looking at Bear. I'm like, how am I meant to Instagram this shit? The lighting's terrible in here.
That was intentional.
Yeah, I know. She said, we want you to eat and get the fuck out of here.
You know, and it's not about that whole don't take photos. I don't give a shit what people do in my restaurant. As long as they're happy, you know what I mean? But I do think that a darker room makes for a more fun atmosphere. People are more inclined to be a bit more of themselves, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then there's also people that want to be in the limelight. But I think people feel really comfortable when they're eating and hanging out with their friends in a more somber, low lit, and you know, you can really have fun. You know?
I remember being there with Siobhan and somebody stood up and did the typical, like, grabbed their phone, stood on the chairs and started doing the aerial shot. And I looked at Barry and I just kind of shook my head and I called her over and I said, what would Mikey do if he saw this? And she said, you don't want to know.
Well, honestly, like, I probably wouldn't care, to be honest. Like,
really?
Like, I see a lot of people call out, like, the social media people and the people taking photos, or people with weird dietaries, and I just don't get it. Like, me, I cook, and if someone wants to tell me they're a vegan who eats beef, then they're a vegan who eats beef.
Wait, what? Hold on.
Take a photo, they take a photo.
No. Wait. You can't say that and keep going. Somebody's actually said to you a vegan that eats beef?
Oh, look, you get all of types. You know what I mean? You get vegans who eat fish. You get vegans.
But that's not a vegan.
Yeah, I know, but you can argue that to them, but they want to tell you that they are. So my take on it is they're trying to give you the quickest and most precise kind of dietary direction, which is, I don't want to eat anything that comes from any animal, but I'll eat beef. And it's like, and you can interpret it either way. Like, you can take it like you've taken it now, and a lot of people in kitchens too.
Bro, you know I'm vegan. Like, how else am I going to take it?
Well, you can take it like I do and just go, okay, cool, give them the vegan menu and throw in a steak at the end. Like, if that's what they want, like, that's what they want. And there's too many reasons. Like, some people have it for medical reasons, some people have it for social reasons, some people have it for moral or ethical reasons. And if I'm having a one-on-one conversation with you, and we're having a wine and we're sitting around, yeah, I might delve into why you chose to be a vegan and if it's moral or if it's ethical or if it's dietary or health related. But when you're busy,
no, when you're under the pump, you've got no time.
Like, too many chefs get way too fucking caught up on dietary.
Yeah.
Get, you know, pissed off that they make an entire gluten-free meal for someone and then they sit there and eat the bread. And it's like, who cares? They fucking want to eat the bread.
Do it. You did an episode on the Mission that I found really great when you were talking about pop-ups.
Yep.
You remember that episode and you were going over, it was, I think, the last one that you did with them.
Yeah, right.
And you were talking about the business strategy behind that and what it taught you having these pop-ups. And you were talking about how you put a menu together.
Yep.
You know, you make sure that there's a gluten-free option on the menu. You make sure that there's a couple of vegan options on the menu. Like, so that when people come in and they have these dietary requirements, your front of house staff can just, like, are there any dietary requirements? Someone says that they're gluten-free. Well, these are the options that we have for you.
Certain cuisines are easier. So what we try to do, like, and I still do it now when I write menus, is I want to work backwards. So I look for any way that I can exclude gluten and dairy from a dish at the starting point. Yep. So, like, I always consider dishes like a building block. So, you know, for my pastas at the moment at Totti's, they're all dairy-free until you put the dairy in at the end, you know what I mean? But it means if anybody says I'm dairy-free, we just don't put the cheese in at the end, you know? And the pastas, we have an alternate, which is gluten-free. So it means that they can have every single pasta dish on the menu, gluten and dairy free, and it doesn't really suffer too much, you know? And like when we ran a Chinese restaurant, we would only use tamari, so it's a gluten-free soy, and we wouldn't use dairy at all. So the waitstaff knew that unless it said bread or it said like noodle, it was gluten and dairy free. And
that menu at Good Luck Pimbo was 90% gluten-free, wasn't it?
Yeah. With the exception of the noodle course, the handmade noodles, which were clearly gluten. So it makes life so much easier and quicker. And the reality, you can fight it, but the reality is people want to have variation in their diet. And there's certain things that people won't eat really, want to exclude, and it changes. And I don't really care why. I just want to make sure that my service, my front of house, my kitchen team, we're executing things quickly, and well. So if we can nip that in the bud at the menu stage, without the product suffering, then we do it.
Was it hard transitioning back to working for someone?
Not really, because they're very, very supportive, and I was at a stage in my career where I wanted to learn new things as well. Like I wanted to learn, I'd done small restaurants and I wanted to do big restaurants, and I wanted to have a bigger team of chefs, and I wanted to have no fucking hassles when I went home at night. Like I wanted to switch off and not be 24/7. So there was sacrifices. Like it's, the food, we used to cook every single dish. It was me and Jem together. We taste, touch, feel every single piece of food that went out. And now I don't have that. I have a team of 20 chefs. So it's been really good for me to learn to let go and to and also really learn to teach, because I had to, you don't have to teach Jem anything. You just say, fucking do the chicken properly, and she'll do it properly. Say, Mike, what are you fucking? But now it's like I got a personal friend. I got all these other people, so now I'm like, and then
I've got still call them a fuckwit, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, actually, not as much. I'm a much more chill boss now.
Are you?
Yeah, not really.
I didn't think so.
I'm all about
hashtag chef life.
I'm all about bringing people up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I still might. I'm pretty restrained. Pretty restrained.
I'm sure you are. Like you get this feeling from like you and Berry. I didn't interact that much with Jem. I do want to get her on this podcast. I think that there's so much that she can, so many stories that she's got. But the thing that I definitely get from both you and Berry is this idea, and I'm sure Jem as well, but you've got no malice about you. You've got no, you're not there to fuck people over. Those chefs that are there because they need you to know that they're going to crush you.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, honestly, I was fuck with. I was probably really hard to work with the girls.
When you were a kid?
Well, when we were Pinbone original, progressing through, learning to be a head chef and learning your role and learning your balance within the trio. All of us had our flaws and all of us had our strengths. And I definitely had a flaw. I would get way too involved in things, and I reckon that I know that I would have been a prick a lot of the time, balanced out by being nice. But I've gotten to a point now where I've tried to just drop that side of cooking.
There you go.
I don't see any benefit in being an asshole. Really being too controlling. There's better ways to do it. And, you can look back and think I wish I'd done things differently, but I got to where I am now by learning it that way. And made big mistakes and, tantrums and being juvenile, being pathetic, basically. And I don't want to be that person or run a kitchen that way. So you've learned it one way, you move forward. And,
Renee went through that as well.
What's that?
Renee went through that as well, Renee Redzepi.
Yeah, look, I'm sure most chefs do. I hope most chefs do. It's sad. It's a very stressful job. I felt a huge weight of,
relief.
A huge weight to sort of keep Pinbone running. And, I feel really responsible for the girls because I con them into doing these pop-ups and put life savings into it. And, and even though it was always the three of us working together and all that, I probably wrongly took on way too much of the feel responsibility for it, and then that would drive me to be a prick, and it was probably a bad cycle. But we got through it, and it was always good that the pop-ups were short because you could put this huge amount of energy into it, and then we'd go overseas and have a holiday. But yeah, that's not who I am these days, and that was one of the reasons I wanted to go to a place that had a supportive staff and a network of people. So they've got a legal team and a PR team and an HR team, and so it means I can go to work at 10 o'clock and clock off at 10 o'clock, and I can actually clock off, and have 2 days off a week and put in for 4 weeks holiday and actually get them.
What's that like, having 2 actual days off a week?
Yeah, it's nice. I don't know what to do. I end up just working, but I'm learning. I'm seeing someone about it. I'm here talking to you.
Dude, I can't relate about working a lot at all. No.
It's
Yeah,
like,
no,
it's just
I can.
hospitality. We all get stuck in that cycle. And I think it's one of the things you have to work towards is embracing your downtime and forcing yourself to have it. And it definitely has huge benefits, both the mental health sides, but
Absolutely.
just the personality and the creative side. You free your mind up, you free your body up, you come back to work with a refreshed attitude, and you actually do a decent job, as opposed to sort of living in this like constant cycle where everything's just survival, which is shit.
And there's no fucking rewards for being a hero of, oh, I'm the most exhausted person I know. Big fucking deal.
It's a bit of dick swinging. It is good to know you can do it. I will say this, like I feel pity for the apprentices of today who only get to do like 38 contact hours, and 8 of that is a TAFE, and so they really do 30 hours in a kitchen for 3 years, and like quite frankly, that's 2 days' work, And yes, in the new modern award schemes, people are only allowed to do 45 hours, like penalty rates and all these other flights of fancy that I've never heard of when I was a chef.
No.
And it's going to put a huge amount of pressure on the industry to survive as a whole, and a lot of small businesses will go under because of it. Because once they really crack down on this wage thing and hours thing, I don't know how small businesses are going to survive without jacking prices up by 25%, which people won't want to pay.
And the margins are so, like, people are talking about like 1%, 0.8% margins at running businesses.
And that's a bad model. Like, that's a bad model. My theory is if you're at under 5% and or break even, then you're not really sustainable. You're actually just in a decline, and eventually you will close. Like,
you have to.
You need to be making money. And if you're not, you need to do something about it, because it just gets more and more dire. You hang on. But really, the structure is everything, and you've got to look to know how much you're making, and you've got to be on top of that. And getting back to the hours quickly, there's no way you can go from doing that 30 to 40 hours as a trainee and then opening your own business, because anyone who's opening their own business, it's a 100-hour week, and you'll die.
Easy.
Yeah.
Fuck, I wish it was 100 hours a week. I'm running 2 businesses now, and I'm like, well, I've got Elixir and I've got Map It Forward, and I love both of them. But realistically, I'm well over 100 hours in a week, and I love it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. And, as both of them grow, I'm going to have to let one of my babies go. Yeah. And that's just how it's going to be. But if I had anything else in my life, like if I was married, or if I had anything like that, poor guy. Like, fuck no.
That's the thing, and like there's a great chef in America called Thomas Keller, and he has a wonderful restaurant called French Laundry. He has a wonderful book.
Yep.
And there's a whole lot of cooking things in there, but the one line, and I probably will misquote it completely, but the one sort of takeaway that I took from that book was never the techniques or the recipes, but there was a line he talks about, like training like a head chef from day one, and never expecting to just sort of take shortcuts and then get to the boss position and just turn it on, and just like flip the switch and be like, okay, now I'm the boss. He uses like an example of picking up a cigarette butt off the floor. The person that walks past and steps over it versus the person that picks it up. The boss, the owner of a business, will always do those little shitty things.
Yeah.
It's their business, it's their baby. And it's the same for hours. You can't possibly do 35 hours and then one day just go, okay, now I'm going to do 100 hours for 6 months and I'm going to be okay with it. Like, it's like running a marathon. You train.
It's brutal. It's like, and I often say to people, and we talk about it a lot on this podcast, and like the sister podcast to this podcast, the Daily Coffee Pro, you cannot understand the stress that's involved in owning a business until you've done it. It's like trying to understand the stress of being a parent. There's no fucking way you can even come close to understanding the anxiety of needing to manage cash flow and making sure that your customers are happy and making sure that your staff are happy. And then at some point, you've got to make time to make sure you're happy. At what fucking point are you meant to just understand? Like, this magic doesn't come out of nowhere just because you're like, okay, so I opened a restaurant starting today. No.
I know. And that's if it's making money. Like, throw in the fact that you've got no bills, you can't pay money, you can't pay your staff.
No.
Once you hit the hard times, man, you're tested, and we've worked for people who didn't pay bills. We've worked in our own places where we couldn't meet our own payments. Like we always had a thing that external got paid first, so staff, suppliers, and then us.
Yeah.
But man, there was some weeks there where we were living on fucking nothing. Like by the time we paid out everyone else, and that's when you tested and and failed. Like that's when the stress
100%.
gets you and the anger gets you, and that's the learning curve, and it's difficult, and regrettable and all those things, and life is like, and you can find things about yourself that you've failed at. But fuck me, it's really testing, when you go through those periods.
I say to people who are thinking about opening a business, I'm like, listen, being in business is going to teach you everything you never wanted to know about yourself.
Yeah. It's true.
It's so true. You are going to, you never want to know what it feels like to drown while you're breathing.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can describe the anxiety of not knowing how you're going to pay your business bills. Yeah,
that's the worst. And, we always made jokes that, we were a not-for-profit organization, and we stuck really true to that. Yes. And like we never, that was our...
It's not hard to stick true to that, bro.
It was really, that was the one thing we just did every time. We never made profit, but we never joked about paying suppliers. Like we really respected the staff and the supplier things, and there were so many opportunities for us to be like a shit cunt, or sorry, a prick.
No, it's hello.
I know it's America, they get a lot more serious. That's like calling someone a mate here. There was a lot of times where we could have done like the big boys and skipped out on paying super and, skipped out on suppliers and, closed the business. But we were very adamant that those things would always get met. But having said that, I don't want to sound like grandiosing. We also had preemptively thought of business models that would allow us to slip out the back door. So we didn't have that sort of thread or that chain around our neck where we had 3 more years to go. Yep. So we could like Pinbone was a classic example. We were on a week-by-week rent. So if we got to the point where we were just paying suppliers and it wasn't going to make it the next month, we could just close. We knew that, and it's Sydney. So
but that's part of a good business model, right? Like sometimes that's the business model that's going to work this year.
Exactly. And that's
this iteration of the business.
It was a 12-month thing, so we knew what we were doing, and we had that in mind. We opened with the perspective of if we need to close, how do we do it without, So when we threw 30 grand into paint and carpet, it was 10 grand each, and we were like, fuck it. If we never see that again, and we won't, we don't care.
Recover from that. Like it'll take you a year to recover and replenish your savings, but you'll all get jobs and you'll all figure it out.
I mean, we could have made more money not working for ourselves. But we wouldn't have made any money. Like the 3 of us running, like Bray would be a restaurant manager or an ops manager or a group manager in any established business in the country.
It should be highly sought after.
We could run any kitchen we wanted and not have to worry about that stuff, but we would never have had the fun.
And the growth curve, like you're still in situations now where you're learning. And I know that there's another iteration of something that you're going to do down the track that's coming. I know a little bit. Listen, you and I are both of that crazy that we can think that we're going to get out of running our own shit for even a couple of years, but it's not going to last longer than that.
Well, I don't want to be a chef forever. So I started out as a scientist, and I was a pretty terrible
bullshit. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Me too. What?
Really?
Yeah, I've got a genetics degree.
I was working in endangered environment and animals and all that sort of stuff, but I was terrible. I went to Sydney University. And
what degree did you do?
So I did ecology and environmental science, and then I did a master's in wildlife health and population management.
No way. I wanted
that was my thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I wanted to do evolutionary genetics. I wanted to either be a genetics counselor or do plant genetics, evolutionary genetics.
Yeah,
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I just wanted to go catch animals in the field and hang out in tents.
Yeah,
and at the time, I just felt it was a really lonely job. And also the funding that used to come through was always from like big corporations. Like, we'd get sent out to do like an environment impact study, and it was like sponsored by Lend-Lease. And so they would take your funding, use them to figure out how they could actually cut the trees down anyway. And I was like, wait, this is fucked. So, I mean, if I'd hung in it, I would have found better work. But, so I started that. Then I did number cooking. And then I think I'd like to go to the land at some point and actually do some primary production. So I think that'd be my next incarnation.
Do you follow bow hunters on Instagram? Do you know
No.
any bow hunters? I think that you'd really enjoy, like, check out Adam Greentree. He's he's a bow hunter, but he's also hugely embedded in animal conservation.
Oh, cool.
And using, like, he lives out somewhere in New South Wales in like bush, somewhere out. I should know better. I grew up in in Sydney. I should fucking know how to say these things better, but I just think I've been in California a little bit too long. I'm sorry. My country people don't
Turn it back on you.
But he lives somewhere in the bush in New South Wales, and all of the meat that they eat, they hunt themselves.
Yeah, awesome.
I definitely think that that's something, like, I could see you as like a wild bushman.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. It's probably a little bit hard, and there's not enough apprentices to do the work for me. So if I could get like a team of people to do it, and I could just kind of boss them around.
I don't know, mate.
That's part of my life now, where I like having people do most of the work.
I wouldn't mind that either. If I could just find the right fucking people.
It's really hard to go backwards once you've already got that happening. Like, they even go get you coffee. It's really nice.
You got people to go. You've got bitches to do that shit for you.
Yeah, I've got coffee bitches. I got everything. It's good. It's good to be the king.
I make my own. Cheers.
No, we did a feral dinner actually. So, like, along that lines, we did a dinner. We work with a great butcher called Mark LeBroy. Not Mark LeBroy. That's another guy. Marky. I just know him as Marky. He's our butcher, and he gave us this great hookups. We used like camel meat, all feral, all shot wild. We used goat, deer, pig, hare, rabbit. We used feral carp. We even used feral possums that were like native to mainland Australia, but feral in Tasmania. So, and we did, I think it was like 12 species, and we did this big feral dinner with the guys from Young Henry's brewery in their beer shed, and it was a feral party. So we gave everyone like ponchos, and the idea was that you'd eat, and then at the end you just have a fucking huge food fight. So and it was awesome. It was really good.
God, I miss Australia.
Yeah, the last course was camel kofters, right?
Okay.
And by the time they got like little, basically fucking pellets to throw at people, and by the time they got to that, they'd already eaten like water buffalo and all this other shit. They were so full that we basically just laid the table with like 400 ammunition bullets. And just unloaded on each other. So
we are, for all the people who are going to contact me and tell me that, I can't believe you're advocating for wasting food, et cetera, that's not what we're saying here.
Oh, look, there was wasted food, but the angle for the discussion that we were pushing was that, and now I think a lot of people picked up on this. This was 4 years ago. It was about eating the problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was about
roadkill and stuff
like destruction that feral animals do in Australia, and then if we could embrace them, actually use them, find an industry and find a pathway for them, people would start eating them, and they'd be a fantastic resource. There's no sustainability issues, because even if you cull the entire population of feral camels in the outback of Australia, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If you take every carp out of the Murray River, it doesn't matter. They're a feral problem. So yeah, there was wasted food, but we got a front page press across the all the newspapers, and if we hadn't had the food fight at the end, people probably wouldn't have had that sort of engagement, and it was a feral party. It was about cutting loose and getting too drunk, and they were sitting on beer
being
cans.
Australian in general.
It was fun.
Just being Australian.
Yeah, just being fun. It was good, and it was warm. It was different. It was the same. We got invited to do the Good Food Month, right? So they was like, do you want to do the Good Food Month? And I was like, yeah, we're a casual diner. We're going to do a fine diner. We're going to charge people $180. We're going to do 6 courses of shit fine dining food. And, we're just going to
fine dining food.
You know what I mean? Yeah, because it's not what they do. They just take it as an opportunity to like promote themselves or do this stuff. And so we thought, well, fuck it. We want to do something different. And so we proposed that. And Miffy Rigby, thankfully, was in charge, and she was like, fuck yeah, you can do that. So then she hooked us up with the guys from Young Henry's. They made a feral beer with all this fucked up feral yeast that they get from I don't know where. We got Mike Benny, who came and hosted it and talked people through it, and he's one of the most feral humans I know. It was great, you know, and it was an excuse to just have a party, and we charged like $55.
Yeah,
you know?
wow.
It's that classic kind of Pinbone mentality of just cover your cost, you know, and take payment in the form of a good time. So
I often think about this idea of like me as a vegan, you know, of course, every fuckface that wants to talk to you about why are you vegan and ask you all the stupid questions that like, well, what if like you were the last person on earth and there was no one there to make you any food? And what if you had to eat animals? Would you eat an animal? Blah, blah, blah. Like all the stupid questions. I often think like under what circumstance would I go back to eating meat? Because I'm like 10 years a vegan now. And the thing is, I don't trust the meat that we're being sold in the stores.
yeah,
Like I'm not going to put factory farmed meat in my body under any fucking circumstance. But I definitely think if I had a Joe Rogan in my life.
back to the
I gush a little bit over him, I'm not going to lie. But like, you know, someone who actually was into hunting, and I wonder if I would, like I could trust that meat.
Yeah.
And the animal has lived a life. Like, look, animals are going to die. They're going to die, and typically they're going to die very cruel deaths out in nature. Like nature is a prick. Like it's cruel and callous and all of those things. There are enough Instagram accounts out there about like, have you seen Nature is Metal? That Instagram account? Check it out if you haven't seen it. Nature is Metal. That shit is crazy.
There's no like purer form of food, and at the end of the day, food is just a resource. It's just an energy. And taking something wild, you know, it's happy, it's alive, it's eating, and the next minute it's dead. You know what I mean? And 90% of your hunters are fucking good at what they do. It's clean kills. It's quick, it's fast. It's, you know, it's less painful than being dragged down by 6 hyenas and slowly eaten from your inside out. You know what I mean? And with the whole issue of why people are vegans, my question has always been like, if you're a vegan for moral and ethical reasons, my personal take is that finding like trustworthy forms of protein is a really great way to encourage better, like better handling, more moral handling, more ethical handling of meat. You know, and if you can put some money into the right farms, and you know, you have traceability, you create that industry. You know, like 20 years ago, it was only like cage eggs that were available, and people started to say, "Well, I want free range eggs." And then free-range eggs became a thing, and they got forward. And now free-range eggs and RSPCA approved eggs, and you know whatever else they use.
That's the same as PETA over in.
Now they use like chickens per square foot in a field and all these ratios. But now they're on par price-wise as cage eggs. So if you just became a person that just refused to eat eggs because you wouldn't eat cage eggs, the cage egg industry would never suffer, because it would tick along, and there's always going to be people that don't give a shit. They're going to eat those things. But now, the people that don't give a shit can also choose a like product price-wise, and it comes down to cost. You know, so the more you push for like ethical pork that's free-range, biodynamic, and humanely slaughtered, the more that industry is going to grow, and eventually it's going to become on par with, you know, sows that are in feedlots, which nobody wants to fucking touch. They're disgusting. You know what I mean? But if you just leave that industry to its own devices, and there's nothing to challenge it, it'll never actually take a financial hit. You know what I mean? Because there's always going to be enough people that want to eat it. It's only when the choice becomes equal that you'll really start to sort of affect the shit industry. You know what I mean? Maybe one factory will close, but the ones that stay open, they're still going to be hurting animals. And if it's all about saving animals from suffering, which I'm a massive advocate for, like, then the more you can help bring up the good industries, in my opinion, that's where it could be. And like, you know, we don't all have that opportunity or that choice. And
no, it's super expensive to eat good meat, man. It's
but that's
really
why
expensive
because it doesn't need to be. And the more support they get, the cheaper it'll become. And everything comes down to finances. So But at the end of the day, humans need a resource. Now, whether it's vegetable or whether it's protein, I don't mind. I want them both farmed ethically. I don't want factory farmed soybeans either.
No, fuck no. And the other thing is, like, you know, this is another reason I enjoy the Rogan podcast, is because you learn so much about stuff like this. They're all bow hunters. They all hunt their own meat. They don't eat meat from, or very often eat meat from supermarkets and whatnot. But they talk about things like the fact that when you eat grain, there is an astronomical number of animals that are killed in the farming of wheat. Because they have to, these fucking massive, what do they call those, Mikey? Those big trucks or harvesters that roll across the fields?
Or like the combine harvesters that just
those
drop
ones.
the feedlots.
Yeah, they drop the rabbits and all of that shit gets caught up in them if they can't, snakes, everything that can't get away fast enough. They get caught up in those and they die along with the wheat that's being harvested. Look, I'm not a dumb girl, but I don't know why I didn't think that would happen. I just thought that, they'd find some sort of electrical current that they could run
I mean,
and get rid of.
Animals die in every essence, you know what I mean? It's the same as like people who avoid like palm oil, right? Because of the orangutans and deforestation. They put palm oil into beef grain to saturate it.
Yeah,
so you don't even know that you're supporting palm oil by eating certain types of meat that's soaking palm oil on their grains. It's a very difficult world to live in a purist way.
It really is. Like, unless you're in Colorado, up in the hills in Colorado, hunting your own meat and, you know, exchanging food with other people, living off a happy pipe and getting stoned all day, you got no fucking chance. Like,
no. And that's one of the things that like chefs are having to realize now is like the traceability, the combined knowledge we need to have. Like, you need to know where every one of your products comes from, what, the flow-on effect. It's difficult, you know, for dietaries, allergies, medical alerts. Like, there's so much shit now you need to know as a chef.
Has that changed since? How long have you been a chef? 20 years?
10 years.
10 years. Has it changed since back in the early days?
Definitely. I mean, you know, it's changed even if you're not a chef. Like, you and I are in the same sort of age bracket, and like, you know, when we were at school, nobody had a peanut allergy.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, so where the fuck did that come from? You know, like, it's been 30 years and all of a sudden 60% of the population can't eat peanuts. And that's just one example. You know what I mean?
Well, even the wheat one, you know what's happened with that? Because I know that in that episode, in one of your episodes of, what do you call it? The Mitchin. I think Mitch was talking about where the fuck all of a sudden everyone's got a gluten allergy. What they're finding is it's probably not the actual gluten that people are allergic to. It's the glyphosate in Roundup that saturates most of the crops in the last 15 years.
100% most of the problems with dietary will come from the factory farm, the mass-produced food. We never used to have that. There wasn't 100 years ago a term for organic food. It was just fruit and vegetables.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then it's just changed. And now we're going back the other way. So, you know, we made an error and we're fixing it. Well, some people are, you know.
But this, dude, the thing is, like, things that can get fixed in Australia doesn't seem to translate over here.
Australia's fucked. We don't fix anything. We have the worst political system. It's like without leadership. It's without testicles.
Hello, I beg to differ at the
moment.
You
guys at least have some options that people are neglecting. We don't even have the options. Like, you guys could choose other people. You just chose Trump. We don't even have anyone else. We have this male-dominated, pathetic, like, suit-wearing fucktards that just wander around Canberra doing fucking nothing. And there's,
you're right.
You know, bad or bad. Like, it's terrible. Like, we don't have anyone. You know what I mean? And our media is completely owned by Rupert Murdoch. So even the decent people get fucked up. And they crippled the ABC, which is our free public network, you know? So
the equivalent of NPR over here. It's the whole, I mean, look, the decision between Trump and Hillary was not any better. Like,
no, but
that was a cluster.
Sanders this time, and you've got, you know, Kamala, you've got all this stuff. You've got options.
We'll see how it goes, but you're right. Like, it's a lot more limited over there. There's also things over here that I'm finding. I didn't give any fucks about politics when I lived in Australia.
No. Who does?
I didn't. And then you come over here and Trump's getting elected and you're like, what?
Yeah.
All of a
Sometimes
sudden,
it
real
gets
quick.
that to make you want to care, though. You know what I mean?
And it makes you think about it definitely got me thinking about the food system over here, because veganism is becoming very popular over here. Like Carl's Jr. and Wendy's and McDonald's, Burger King, all of them now have vegan burger options. They have the Beyond Burger that company just went public. They're cooking it on the same grill where the meat is.
So it's like a kind of a trade-off.
Only in America, but they're calling it a vegan burger, and Americans are believing it because it's called a vegan burger. The cheese that they're using is not vegan cheese; it's normal cheese.
What?
Yep. You know,
And the vegans are okay with that.
you're supposed to ask for the vegan burger without the cheese if you want it really vegan. Go figure that one out. But the thing is over here that there are so many people to feed, and the food system and food sources are so politicized over here that it is, until you start scratching the surface and starting to understand why sugar is so expensive over here compared to corn syrup. Why do they put high fructose corn syrup in everything? Right. Like, it's all because somebody who had a cousin in Congress needed a law passed so that sugar got taxed so high. It's all of that. You're like, oh shit, they've got 350 million people to feed.
That's
350 million people. Like, just get your head around how many Big Macs that is.
Hey, can I go get a charger for the laptop?
Absolutely.
You're going to annoy your customers?
No, my customers. They don't pay anything. I will take this opportunity. Go. I will take this opportunity to tell anybody that's listening while Mikey goes and gets a charger that we have a workshop that is up now on mapitforward.org/events called Barista and Beyond. This is a workshop for anyone who's looking to have a long-term professional career in the coffee industry and not necessarily open up their own business in the next couple of years. Or if you are thinking about opening up your business in the next couple of years, you should also attend this if you have no idea how you are going to fund that, because we're going to talk about all of that stuff. It is, at the moment, there's an early bird special. It's typically $79 for the ticket. That's the regular price. But if you want to come to this and pay before the 15th of May, the tickets are $53. So head to mapitforward.org/events and you will be able to pick up your tickets there. Perfect timing, Mikey.
You get your plug in? You did your ad?
I did. We never do ads on the video version of this.
Yeah. What did I just endorse? Did you was it like the baby's getting bombed or anything?
Yeah, right, exactly. #America. No, we're doing a webinar for Map It Forward. I'm running a webinar called Barista and Beyond because people can't see a long-term financially successful career in this industry. Particularly here, they still pay minimum wage. So it's fucked, man. Like, well, baristas go to work.
Like you're an owner.
Well, no, they're not even doing great. Like that's
a heap for coffee over there.
Sorry,
it's still expensive for coffee.
Well,
like you're charging the same as Australia,
yeah, in American dollars.
Yeah, and the product's cheap to buy, like milk and coffee.
Well,
again, price is pretty much the same.
All of it depends. It depends. The same in Australia. You've got people charging $5 for a latte, and then they're saying that they're serving specialty coffee, but they're buying commodity coffee, which is like commercial coffee, and they're paying $1.50 a pound for it.
Yeah, it's not raking in the 98s and 96s.
Not at all, right? Not at all. Mikey, that's something that I've always loved about you. You actually know about coffee.
Yeah, because I was really interested in it. I think it's really exciting, And also, I've always wondered why the way coffee runs. Like, I never understood why people go out and get these 98s, and then put milk on it. It's like, I was always like, to me, I'd be paying more for the secondary stuff to support the sustainable farming and, taking those 80s and under, but paying 96s because you're talking about fuck all anyway, and you're passing the buck onto the guy.
It's nothing to us. It's literally like maybe on the high end, an extra $1 a pound on the really high end.
But it makes a huge difference back at the farm where, and there's such a big like avenue to use up the stuff that doesn't hit that top echelon,
Yeah.
Well, people don't care. And to be honest, it's half the time if it's not roasted properly anyway, it doesn't matter what you buy. And I laugh at all these guys.
Make my heart flutter.
They go on about like roasting their own coffee, and then they make you this shit as coffee. And like they're just spastics. Like I can't use that word.
You're not allowed to say that anymore.
It's not the word. It's not a good word. I should use that. But the coffee they give you
you
is
say the R word instead, and then I'll tell you can't say that.
Yeah, well, I won't use either. I shouldn't use it. But, like the coffee is just not great, and I laugh because they all use the same roaster. They rock up in Sydney. They get allocated time. They squeeze in the roasting in their little allocated time. They bring the semi-burnt, under-roasted, boring coffee back. They over-extract. The temperature's wrong, and then they tell you about how they did it. And it's like the funniest part is the way they stand behind it, and they're proud of it. And it's like I go to a place called Double Tap.
I saw that these guys are new, right? They've I can't wait to check them out. I'm going to be there in December. So
they just support roasters, and it's like it's perfect. And they rely on experts.
The guy who owns that place used to be the head roaster for Alchemy.
Exactly.
For 9 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a lovely human. You know what I mean? And Kinney and Ten, the guys that work there with him, and his wife, Liz is in the kitchen just making classics. And, like he goes, this is someone from up in, Byron, and they're roasting, and it's really good.
Yeah,
and it's like,
awesome.
Yeah, cool. You've got someone with skill to do something and relying on you to use your skill to do something. And the coffees are seriously good,
Mikey, we've got to open a cafe.
I won't do that again. You don't make any money.
That's so fucking true.
And they're fun. And when we did OG Pinbone, we wanted to do the 1 day a week cafe just as a bit of a kick up the ass to all the people in Sydney that were doing a shit job of cafes because it's impossible to get coffee and food in the same venue. You can get one or the other. Yep. So we were like, fuck it, let's do decent coffee and good food and just show people that it's not that fucking hard. But we used to do like 800 covers out of a 120-seat restaurant with just me and Jem in the kitchen, and we'd make fucking no money. Like you can sell 500 coffees and make fucking no money. And
do you know how it will work though? The only way it will work is literally a hole in the wall.
Yeah, of course. Just doing that is fine.
That you're open from 6 a.m. until just after lunch.
But I don't even like the 6 a.m. part.
Well, you're fucking doing the midnight shift right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like that. I'm a late night person. I look better in the dark.
Says every chef I've ever dated.
No, but honestly, like I can't go backwards. Like when you see people buy a $150 bottle of wine and you just make $100 for nothing, and all you do is take the cork off, then you can translate that into how many coffees and cups.
Exactly.
It's just like fuck. And I love natural wine the same way I love beautiful coffee. Like I love the artistry. I love the people at all levels of it. I love the interaction. So I love cafes. I love them. Like they're a passion of mine. I love great cafe food. I love great coffee. I'm bitterly disappointed by most of them. And I would love.
Like, isn't that crazy? Still in this day.
If I had any money to live, I would run one. Like if it was just a passion project and I had money, like if I was one of those people that was born with wealth, and I wasn't just like perennially poor, I would just run a cafe for fun. Because I love the interaction. I love the clientele. I would appreciate the social life attached to finishing work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I've always thought that the coffee community in Sydney, for instance, is a great one. Like I was always jealous of these guys. They finish at 4, they go to the pub, they interact, they move around. And it's really nice,
It's the one thing that I've decided is that when I do eventually sell Elixir and I, map it forwards doing all the things that I want it to do. And the only time I will open a cafe will probably be in Syria. when it's ready to rebuild. So probably 20 years from now, and
Yep.
it can make no money.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with it not making any money, but imagine opening a cafe in Damascus, one of the oldest cities in the world, and just like bringing that. My family's from Syria, so that's why for me it's like it would be a dream come true.
Yeah.
To be able to go and start specialty coffee in one of the most ancient cities in the world, and doing it just because you want to like bring that into that in part of rebuilding a hospitality community in a city.
And I've always been envious of the social networking that's attached to a genuine cafe.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, like,
Oh, my
because
God.
both people do something really difficult and have a lot of hard work, but as a chef, you're always out the back. You know what I mean? And you don't have that interaction. And as much as
You've
people
got too much personality to be stuck out the back, though.
yeah, but I'm also a prick, so it's kind of like,
Clearly, I think you're a prick.
you gotta have a buffer.
Obviously.
You know, that every now and then it's nice to put your head around it. But most of the time it's good to just keep you away from the general public. But I'm always jealous of, like, you know, you see those baristas and they have this wonderful interaction with 100
Oh, it was
people.
awesome.
You know, it's really nice. That's a really, really nourishing job. And I don't know if they all appreciate it, but the ones that do, the genuine ones, they're like friends. You know?
It's the thing that I miss the most about not being in a cafe. I mean, I love owning and working on and building these two businesses, but I definitely have noticed a shift in my life, not being at the bar anymore. It's one of those things of like, you make genuine lifelong friendships. You are engaging with someone's life every day. You're speaking to them for about 30 seconds every day, but you're the person who gets to put this little cup in front of them and they drink it and they're like, you're the best part of my daily. Like drinking, you can't beat that. These people genuinely appreciate your presence in their life.
Yeah, and like, what do you do with that when you don't have it? Like, you know, I was always jealous of Berry for the same reason, you know what I mean? That she had this great kind of interaction with our clients, and she'd take the kudos and the praise, and she deserved it, and she would pass it on to us, but it never feels the same.
It doesn't.
Like Table 20 wants to tell you that this was amazing and you guys are great, but she got to have the conversation with them, and then when they'd come back, Table 20 became, you know, like Tam and Chi, and then, you know, like Table 6 becomes, you know, like, you know, we had names, like there was a group of kids that used to live up the road in Paddington. We used to call them the Raddies, you know what I mean? Because they were like so out of place in Paddington, because they were like these, they must have just took a share flat, and they were 12 of them just like living in the one house, you know what I mean? And they would look like Raddies, but now they're all lawyers. So we've been doing it for 10 years, and now they come and they're like lawyers and doctors, and
they tip you properly.
Yeah, it's like the Raddies are in, and this guy rocks up in a like Merc, and you're like, yeah, anymore, you know? Like, but it was nice that she had those interactions, and we always liked that they were back. Like, look, these guys are back, they're back, they're back, they're back. But actually knowing them I wouldn't know what they look like, which is
I mean, maybe having an open kitchen. Have you got that at Totti's?
I've always had open kitchens, but you still don't have the time or the you know, it's the actual interaction, the FaceTime, you know, that ability to sit down and talk with someone.
Oh, you can't when you're a chef either, can you? Like, no matter how much you can see them and whatnot, they just want to ask you, what's your knife? What knife are you using?
Yeah, exactly. It makes it really difficult, you know, like you've got to, you've got to just sort of push on, I guess is the term that everyone uses, but you don't get that luxury of having that kind of, you know, chance to stop, everything stop, chat to a table. I mean, Berry doesn't either, but just a little bit of interaction is enough, you know, that she gets to do that. So,
well, speaking of Berry, I know that your sister is across the road having a baby right now, and and I'm so grateful that we got at least an hour to chat. Thank you so much, mate. I miss you. I miss your food, and I cannot wait to come to Totti's when I'm there at the end of this year.
Yeah, hopefully it's still running.
That'll be a year. Hear this, mate.
For us, Justin doesn't know, but it's a pop-up. Like,
you've just decided. I think that Justin has way more faith in you than you have in you. I can't wait. Like, to have your food again would be really amazing. I can't wait, and I'll see you in December.
Great to be cooking for you again.
Thank you, mate. I hope we'll get to chat again on the podcast, and give Berry a big kiss from me.
will. Yeah, have me back on when it's like global, so I get some of the press. Like, I'm happy to do the founding ones, but once you've got this like 20 million subscribers, you get me back on.
We're only at 10,000 subscribers a month, so we're building. We're building.
Well, have me on anytime. It was good.
This is the first year, so you've made it just after. You're 2 episodes after our first birthday.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. You're still one of the founding.
I believe you took a year to get me. That's terrible.
Bro, have you seen your schedule? Shut the fuck up. Do you know how hard it is to get you?
We didn't even talk about like the food scene in Sydney, the food scene in America. We didn't get on to
why I'm like, do you have 3 hours to talk? Because you and I
are 10 minutes, but you've wrapped me up now.
Hey, I can talk for another 2 hours with you. It's fine. But I know that Berry's having a baby. And just let's do this again in a couple months.
Definitely hit me back up.
Absolutely.
On the American food scene.
And I want to talk to Gemma as well. I think that I so want to get women who are just doing amazing things in kitchens on the podcast, because there are young female chefs and baristas that come to me and say, can you have more women that are badasses on the podcast? I'm like, yes, they're out there. A lot of them are scared to come on the podcast. They're just scared to talk. They don't think they've got anything to say. And like, the men are happy to say yes when they can find the fucking time. But
I've made a career of not having anything to say.
Clearly, you're so timid, sir.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a real wallflower.
But on that, let's do this again soon.
Perfect. Thanks, Lee.
All right, mate. Take care. See you later.
Bye.